everybody, welcome back to J.P.'s World of Wrestling. I am your man J.P. and it feels like it's been a while. Of course, life just gets busy, and I've been busy with my new job, which is going well. In fact, it originally was supposed to only be temporary for the holidays, and now it ended up being full-time. So that's good. I'm going to be doing some overnight work. I'm going to be an overnight security guard at a shopping mall. And so I'm looking forward to getting going with that officially. So I've already gotten one overnight under my belt, but I officially start this coming week. So that's going to be good. And I'll know what my days off are, so I'll know when I can record videos. Oh, okay, anyway. So we've been covering Royal Rumble, my favorite WWF pay-per-view of the year. And so today we're going to continue. And the next one on the list is the Royal Rumble 1991. Now, 1991, it was an interesting year for the WWF because, so at WrestleMania the previous year, Hulk Hogan had dropped the WWF title to the Ultimate Warrior. And quickly, though, the Ultimate Warrior, even though he was popular as Intercontinental Champion, as WWF Champion, he really, he wasn't that popular. So the WWF had to find a way to get the belt off of him. So in comes Sergeant Slaughter. So Sergeant Slaughter was brought in. Originally, they brought Sergeant Slaughter in, or actually, before Sergeant Slaughter came in, they brought Tugboat in, and Tugboat was going to be friends with Hulk Hogan at first, and then he was going to turn on Hogan, and then because of the war in Iraq, Tugboat was going to become Sheik Tugboat, and then him and Hogan were going to wrestle at WrestleMania, but they ended up getting Sergeant Slaughter. So Sergeant Slaughter came in, became a white hot heel, basically turning his back on America and siding with Iraq, our bitter enemies at the time. And so that made for some pretty compelling stuff. Although I didn't really care about it as much as some stuff they had done in the past, but it was what it was, and so Royal Rumble 1991. So in the opening match, it was the Orient Express versus the Rockers. It was the Rockers were victorious. Now the previous year at WrestleMania, the Rockers had lost to the Orient Express because Marty Jannetty got salt in his eyes. One of them threw salt in his eyes. Now this was a little bit different Orient Express because Sato had gone on to become a manager, and so this one was Kato and Tanaka. But Kato was under a mask, and the reason why they had him under a mask because they didn't want anybody knowing it's actually a white guy, because him and Tanaka had tag teamed everywhere else in the country and in the world, but because it was the Orient Express, they didn't want people to know that one of them wasn't part of Orient. So anyway, excuse me. Okay, and then we had, the Big Boss Man versus the Barbarian, two big guys going at it, nothing real fancy there. I enjoyed the match. And then they put the WWF Championship sort of in the middle of the event, but before the title match, they were interviewing Macho Man Randy Savage, and he's like, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you. The Ultimate Warrior. Sergeant Slaughter's already promised me a title shot. We're going to challenge the Ultimate Warrior if he wins. And so they brought out Sensational Sherry, and then she brought out the Ultimate Warrior. And so Sensational Sherry tried to seduce the Ultimate Warrior into giving Macho a title shot, in which the Warrior yelled in her face, "No!" after she had kissed him, and then he had did this weird thing where he's acted like a Neanderthal, just me not understand what going on. So he ended up like spitting it out, and that's when he went, yo, yelling in her face. And then she went back, and then Macho's like, he said no, whoa, blah, blah, blah. And then he like runs out of the locker room. So then they have the WWF title match, in which at some point the Ultimate Warrior was outside the ring, and Macho Man came out and attacked him with a big like light stand. Attacked him, hit him in the back. So then the Ultimate Warrior barely made it back to the ring. They wrestled some more. So at one point, Sergeant Slaughter has Ultimate Warrior kind of dangling on the second rope, in which Macho Man is there. Macho Man grabs a scepter and gives Warrior like a really stiff shot in the head. And like it kind of busts the top of the scepter. So then then Sergeant Slaughter drops an elbow, gets the 1, 2, 3, and Sergeant Slaughter becomes the new WWF champion. And at that point, you hear boos all over the arena because Sergeant Slaughter was a white hot heel at the time. I mean, he was hot. I mean, people like hated him. So that was a controversial moment, but the decision stood. So we would have a new WWF champion. Yeah. And so right after that match, though, we had Coco Beware versus the Mountie. Yeah, that's a pay-per-view match. Not to take anything away from Coco Beware or the Mountie, because I loved the Mountie. And I kind of liked Coco Beware, but to follow the WWF title match, I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do I know? I'm not in the wrestling business. Okay, yeah. So then we hear a bunch of comments from guys that are in the Royal Rumble. All of them are going to say, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. Anyway, okay, so then we had a special tag team match. It was father and son, Dusty and Dustin Rhodes, taking on the $1 Million Man and Virgil. So this was when, right before, Virgil was kind of having second thoughts about his association with the $1 Million Man. And I guess he had a meeting with Roddy Piper where they had discussed, things. Anyway, so interesting thing about this match that I remember, the first time I saw it, was at the beginning of the match, there's like a melee where all four guys are in the ring. And there's a point where Dustin Rhodes punches Virgil, but you could visibly see him miss by a mile. But yet Virgil still sold it like, but even though he missed. But anyway, so DiBiase and Virgil ended up winning the match. But at some point, Virgil accidentally nails DiBiase. So then DiBiase kind of beats up on Virgil a little bit. But then he goes on to win the match. But immediately after the match, he got onto the microphone and demanded that Virgil put the belt around his waist. And before this match, so I got to back up a little bit. Before this match, they were doing an interview with DiBiase. And DiBiase was like, now a lot of you will be asking, why does Virgil do this for me? Why does Virgil clean the dog poop off my shoes? Well, it's simple. Money. Everybody's got a price. And so, but you can see Virgil like doing what he normally do, like flashing the money, but you can see it on the face like, oh, he was starting to cringe. And so, immediately after this tag match, after DiBiase demanded that he put the belt around him, Virgil nails DiBiase with the belt. And then he just kind of looks at him like, oh, I'm not going to take your crap anymore. And so then Virgil leaves DiBiase in the middle of the ring. And so, then we had the Royal Rumble match, the 1991 Royal Rumble. Now, the Royal Rumble match itself is one of my favorite ones, just because there was a couple guys that I liked that actually lasted like a really long time. And this particular one, Gorilla Monsoon, who was on commentary, he would call out different times, like, oh, so-and-so's been in the ring for 25 plus minutes. And I think Greg Valentine was in the match for almost 40 minutes. He was like in the match for like 39 or something minutes. And then Rick the Model Martel, who was, I believe, number 5 or something, was in there, and he just kept lasting and lasting and lasting. He was in for like a really long time until he got eliminated by the $1 Million Man, and or not by the, but by the British Bulldog. I think eliminated him. So, but yeah, he was in for like a really long time, and he had been in for like almost an hour, and so, but in the end, Hulk Hogan won the match. He eliminated the Earthquake because Hulk and Earthquake, they were gonna set up a feud between Hulk and Earthquake, or actually Hulk and Earthquake had already feuded. At the previous year's SummerSlam, that was the main event. And so this year, it was the two of them in the Royal Rumble, but Hulk eliminated the Earthquake. Earthquake gone. Hulk was victorious, raised his hand in victory, and so Hulkamania runs wild once again. So that was Royal Rumble 1991. It was pretty good. It was solid. You know, it was certainly much better than some of the other events that WWF would later hold in later years. So, that'll do it. What do you think of Royal Rumble 1991? Oh, I should also bring up, too, when I'm watching these, I'm watching them from my anthology DVD set. Now, like I've mentioned before, this is Volume 1, and it's worn. It's worn out. You know, part of it's broken away because I've seen it many, many times, because watching this stuff is a source of comfort, and it's almost therapeutic for myself, because when I watch it, I can just get lost into this imaginary world of professional wrestling, and you know, it really helps me. So anyway, that is going to do it for this video. So if you're new, feel free to like the video. Feel free to subscribe to the video. We're 11 away from getting to 100. So keep subscribing. Keep telling people about it, you know. Anyway, that's going to do it. And I will see you next time.